Good evening, salutations, my Days of Lives fans. I gotta say that this episode was good. This episode was interesting. It's been a hot minute since they started to pick up steam again. I mean, they were slowing down for a little bit, but they seem like they're back on track now, which is great. Eric, Nicole and Rafe, I felt like had the longest drawn out, unnecessary breakup possible. I don't understand why is Rafe asking like 50 something questions. So when did you start loving Eric again? And how long was this? And, this whole time was like, bro, when she said that she wanted to be with Eric, it should have ended right there. Yeah, you should have probably, I mean, I would sit there and say have more class, but eventually he did get out what he got out as far as Nicole treating marriage and stuff like that like it's a game. And it's funny too because somebody said that in the comment section maybe about a couple weeks ago. It's like Nicole will marry somebody and then eventually she gets bored and she moves on. That's just what she does. I can't confirm that or deny that because, well, I haven't been watching it that long, but people who have been watching it longer than me, so that's pretty much her MO. And he does mention that, like, after him asking like 1,000 something questions and her crying and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused." You was confused, sweetheart. You were confused. There's a couple of things that people will say during breakups that just irritates the living life out of me. Okay, because these are people that are grown ass adults usually, and they have jobs, they have kids, they have a life. To sit there and say that they're confused about something is like, don't she like, well, don't she work at a company or whatever? It's like she's, I mean, I know that there's bosses above her, but I'm pretty sure she is a boss above the other people. But so for her to sit there and say I was confused, I was just like, really? I expect that from a teenager to sit there and give that answer. I don't expect that from a grown ass woman. Um, but he goes in, he's like, yo, listen, you did the same thing with Eric. I mean, and then of course he does get her to admit that they made out before she went to go see him. So at this point, he was like, "Yo, I'm done. Leave. Kick rocks." Or as Devon, Brock TV like to say, "Kick rocks without socks." And she's like, "No, I'm not gonna go." What was there left to talk about? I mean, this breakup was already drawn out to begin with. What was there left to talk about? So eventually, she cries and it's awful and poor me and wah wah wah. After all of that, she leaves and Rafe leaves that expensive ass ring, like on the table of a hospital. I was like, no. Why are we just leaving jewelry around? Like, what are you doing? And Sarah says something that was inappropriate as far as their pregnancy, like, oh, is this some sort of complication or whatever? Oh, I didn't mean to say that. You shouldn't have said anything. But after she leaves, and I'm surprised that Jada actually got pregnant that fast. Um, Eventually she tells Eric that, yeah, I saw what you did. I saw you snipping making out with Nicole. And of course, she gives this same BS excuse. Oh, I try to fight my feelings and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, bro, stop talking. You're sounding more pathetic by the minute. Please stop talking. Just, just stop. And he just goes on and on and on and on and on. He's like, kick rocks. He's like, no, 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 no. I want to, we're in this together. And she's like, you know what? Fine. Listen, I'm not because she was like, as far as the baby's concerned, we'll deal with that at a later time. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. I'm donezo for the night. She's like, you can leave. So he leaves, and she sees Eric, and she hugs him. She's like, it was so awful. Yeah, it was so awful. It was misery that you made. And you want to sit there and start crying and whining to Eric about how awful it was. Poor you, boo-hoo. Um, I don't understand how Tony thinks that he's helping EJ because this is negotiation. And you're basically getting him to... You're taking away his confidence. This is a standoff, and the last thing that he needs is to not have confidence to sit there and do this exchange, this negotiation, whatever you want to call it. He's like, I'm not giving her money. She's like, no, you should pay up, and this, that, and the third. And my whole thing is like, what's to stop? Here's the thing: what's to stop her from wanting more money? Oh, 20 million? No, I meant 40 million. Yeah, so you could just wire me another 20 million. Oh, did I say 40? I meant 70. You know, it's like negotiating with, well, I'm not going to sit there and say that word. Um, but it's just something that you don't do. You don't give in to blackmail as far as, giving them more money. If you give them money, what's going to stop them from doing anything worse? I mean, yeah, we can all sit there and say that Ava will probably give back Susan, but he doesn't know that, and sometimes I always have to sit there and remind myself that when I'm watching these shows, Ava comes to the house after talking to Steve, after Kayla, after catching Steve and Ava hugging. She goes right to the place. He starts strangling the life out of her. And she's like, she starts making a bunch of threats, gets upset, strangles her. Tony stops it. And, then she leaves. But I gotta sit there and say, like, when EJ gets angry, uh, I mean, it's like the devil really just comes out of this guy. He's yelling, he's throwing glasses, he is just losing it. Like his hair's all frizzy and everything. This guy must have been like a theater major, because I only know a certain amount of actors that could sit there and pull off something like that that could be so theatric. And it brings me to Joseph Morgan, aka Klaus from the originals. If you watch the originals, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just something the way that he just goes off, and it's just like this is good. This is good. This woke me up. It's like it was like six something when I started watch 6 something in the morning. I started watching. I was like, oh, what happened here? Where did that come from? Um, Now Kayla does learn that Trip is being held captive, and of course she's like, "Yo, listen, I think Ava's not telling us everything," which was Steve said too. But she's like, "You know what? We'll deal with that when we deal with that." Of course, he didn't want her going, but Kayla is not taking no for an answer, and I was like, "Bro, you might as well just stop talking because you know she's gonna come. You know she's coming with you." I don't understand why we need to even waste an air and oxygen trying to tell her not to do something this important, and you know she's gonna do it. Almost felt like fast forwarding it, but eventually they got there. Now, Xander talks to Gwen, and he's like, "Oh, I got this new job and stuff like that. It's pharmaceuticals. It's what was it called, Retnick or something like that? Retnick's pharmacy or something." And I was like, "It's kind of like what Victor says. Sounds made up." And so she's like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. While she has a laptop, she looks it up. She's like, "Yeah, I can't find that company. That don't seem real." Off the bat, even before she even looked it up, she was like, "It doesn't sound real." And she was like, "Yo, why are you lying for?" Eventually, he does tell her the truth about Ava. And she's like, "Oh, okay, so that's what she went to when I practically said kick rocks." Um, Sarah does eventually come in. Yeah, Sarah does come in, and she doesn't say anything. She doesn't say anything, even though Sarah came in like, "Yo, what's this? Why are you associating with the enemy for?" And when they leave, Gwen's like, "Hey, listen, I'll talk to you later." That that actually reminds me of, I don't know why, but that reminds me of Chappelle's scene where keeping it real goes wrong. I think Chappelle was actually dating this chick, and some other dude was like, yeah, I'll see you around. And he was like, what? That's what that reminded me of. She was like, "Oh, why do you need to talk to him for?" And Gwen was like, "Well, I'll put in a good word. I'll write an article. Every startup needs some buzz or whatever." And Sarah was like, "No, no, no, he's good. He's good. You can go back to whatever you're doing." look at this whole thing, and again, I'm not really about matches. At this point, you've been watching the channel long enough, you know I'm not about matches and couplings and chemistry and all that other stuff. But I will sit there and say that Gwen is a better fit for Xander and Sarah. Sarah's judgmental. Um, she's judgmental. She won't really have his back when it really counts. I mean, yeah, she's been super supportive, and she's been down the naysayers like Maggie and Victor and everything like that. But I don't know. It's something about Sarah, the stuff that I've seen with her, especially when it comes towards Xander. You know, trying to change him around, trying to change him, and you know, he's changed for her. He didn't change for himself, and that's always a recipe for disaster. They're just not a good match. I know a lot of people love them together and everything. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I don't get it. You know, I get that this fantasy of having this guy change his whole life around for her, and you know, for a woman, it sounds super romantic, but in reality, it sounds like a recipe for disaster. I know people get caught up in the fantasy, and it's a fantasy, but I'm like, oh, what are you doing? You know, you want some guy to sit there and change for you, and then 6 months down the line, when he starts to resent you, then you're gonna be standing there like, I don't understand what happened. You said you changed for me. Yeah, he didn't change for himself. Over time, most people do learn that hard truth. They do. I think that's about it. But I gotta say that days. I always go back, and it's so surprising when Days outshines GH a lot of times, and it's because of the problems that they have that they choose not to fix, that people just kind of ignore, and you just kind of just go with it, even though they know that it's practically a, I don't want to sit there and say it's sinking ship, but it's just broken, and they choose not to do anything about it. Days is definitely heating up. Um, I feel like that's pretty much about it. I can't think of anything else that happened. Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know your thoughts on the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.